Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the stillness of the house, soft and low like a secret. I stepped quietly into the kitchen, the cold tiles beneath my feet grounding me as I pulled his oversized shirt tighter around my body. The fabric hung loosely, brushing the middle of my thighs, warm, familiar, and carrying the faintest scent of him. It was past midnight, the kind of hour when everything feels slower, softer, closer. And then he turned. He hadn't heard me come in, and for a long, breathless second, our eyes locked across the moonlit kitchen. His hand froze on the glass he'd just filled with water. Mine hovered over the counter's edge. Neither of us spoke. That moment lingered, suspended in air like dust dancing in the silver blue light slipping through the window. His gaze dropped, just slightly, then came back to mine. But something had changed. That look was no longer casual or passing. It held questions we hadn't dared ask. Feelings neither of us had admitted, not even to ourselves. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt charged, like the calm before thunder. He was only a few feet away, standing barefoot in flannel pajama pants, a t-shirt clinging to his frame. Nothing about his appearance had changed, and yet, everything had. There was an awareness now, a quiet shift in the air, in the way his shoulders rose slowly with a breath he didn't seem to realize he was holding. I moved toward the counter, my steps light, my heart heavier than it had been moments ago. The room wasn't cold anymore. If anything, it felt too warm. I could feel the flush crawling over my skin, not from embarrassment, but from something deeper, the quiet ache of being seen in a way that was no longer innocent. Still, neither of us broke the silence. There was no need for words. The tension said enough. I reached for a glass, and our hands brushed. That single touch sparked a current that raced up my spine and settled in my chest like a flutter. He didn't pull away. And I didn't want him to. The air between us pulsed with something unspoken but deeply felt. And in that kitchen, wrapped in borrowed cotton and shadows, we stood on the edge of something impossible to name, yet impossible to ignore. Something had shifted. And it wasn't going back. He set the glass down with the quiet clink of ceramic, then leaned his hip against the counter, keeping the distance, but closing the space with presence rather than words. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, as if the night itself might overhear. I laughed softly, a sound too small for what I felt. "Just couldn't sleep," I said, and the words tasted like half-truths. I tucked a curl behind my ear, feeling the shirt slide against my thigh. "What about you?" He shrugged, but his shoulders didn't drop. "Same." He let the silence stretch, and in that room full of shadow and moonlight, it somehow felt like the only honest answer. He looked at me in a way that made my fingers go numb, and my heart too loud, curious, careful, and not quite private. We moved around each other like dancers finding a new rhythm. He reached for a dish towel, and our hands met, fingers brushing, a brief, bright shock. He didn't pull away. If anything, he lingered a hair longer than needed, then let go like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said, then smirked as if to hide something more complicated. "You look ridiculous in my shirt." "You shut up," I replied, but my voice went soft. "You wear it better." He smiled, the kind that changed everything, small and dangerous. Is that an invitation or an insult? Maybe both. The corner of my mouth tugged. I found myself stepping closer without thinking, the air between us somehow thinner. I tried to catalog what I felt: worry, excitement, a strange, secret hunger, as if naming the pieces would keep them in order. But names slipped away the moment he raised his hand toward my face. His fingers hovered at my temple, a ghost touch that read like permission and question at the same time. My breath hitched. I should have stepped back. I should have laughed it off and gone to bed. Instead, I closed my eyes when his thumb brushed my cheek. We both tried to be reasonable in our heads. He thought about boundaries, about how late-night closeness could be mistaken for something else. I thought about the smallness of the world at that hour, how confessions felt easier in the dark. But thought and want are poor companions. Desire kept outpacing caution. When I opened my eyes, the kitchen felt both enormous and impossibly small. He was closer now, nearer than before, but not touching. The electricity between us thrummed so loud I could feel it behind my teeth. "Tell me if you want me to stop," he murmured, barely audible. I swallowed, the answer already at the edge of my lips. "Don't," I breathed. He moved then, slowly, respectfully, no dramatic gestures, no sudden leaps. He placed his palm over mine where it lay on the counter, and for a heartbeat the world narrowed to heat and breath and the steady press of skin on skin. That small, deliberate contact said more than any confession could. It left everything unresolved, humming with possibility, and when he smiled, the look said he was just as surprised as I was that we'd stayed. We stood like that a long moment, not touching and touching all at once, both aware of the line we were leaning toward and both wanting, in secret, to cross it. There was a stillness between us, not born of comfort but of restraint, heavy and quiet, like the air just before a storm. I could feel it in the way he watched me, in the way I couldn't quite bring myself to look away. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. Not here. Not with him. But attraction doesn't ask permission. It just appears. Quiet at first. Then louder. "You should go back to bed," I said finally, my voice softer than it needed to be. It didn't even sound like me, more like someone trying to convince herself. "So should you," he replied, the corners of his mouth tugging just slightly. He wasn't teasing, not really. His tone was gentle, careful, like he knew exactly how thin the line was that we were dancing on. I turned away, pretending to look for a glass. I needed space. Distance. Anything to dull the pull I felt whenever we were alone like this. But even the silence felt intimate. Too intimate. When I finally turned back, he was closer than before, just a step, but it felt like more. My breath caught. His eyes searched mine, not boldly, but with an honesty that made me ache. "We can't," I whispered, though he hadn't said a word. "I know," he said, just as quiet. But neither of us moved. His hand brushed mine again, just a ghost of a touch, but this time it felt intentional. Deliberate. As if he wanted to feel the shape of the moment, just once. My heart thundered. I could see it in his eyes too, the fight between knowing better and wanting more. And maybe that's what made it worse. We both knew. He reached up, slowly, as if testing gravity itself, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered, warm, light, trembling with what they weren't allowed to say. "I think about it too much," he said, voice rough around the edges. "More than I should." I didn't ask what it was. I didn't have to. We stood there, suspended in a moment that shouldn't exist. The space between us thinned again, and for the first time, he leaned in. My breath stopped. His lips hovered a breath away from mine. And then a sound. A creak from upstairs. We both froze. The sound upstairs faded, just the old house settling, or maybe the wind shifting against the siding. We didn't move, didn't speak. Only our breathing marked the seconds. Shallow. Unsteady. His hand was still near my cheek, not quite touching now, but close enough that I could feel the heat of it. I blinked, barely, and our foreheads nearly brushed. No one was watching. The world had narrowed again, just us, the soft hum of the refrigerator, and a heartbeat pounding like a drum inside my chest. I began, but the words fell apart as he looked at me. Really looked. "You thought what?" he asked, voice husky but gentle. "That I could handle being near you like this," I said, with a small, nervous laugh. Clearly, I was wrong. He smiled, but it wasn't smug. It was shy, boyish even, like this was all just as confusing for him. That made it worse. Or better. I didn't know. "I keep trying to tell myself it's nothing," he said quietly, "but when you're near me like this..." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. The air grew thick again, almost hard to breathe. I could smell the fabric softener from his shirt, the faint warmth of his skin. He leaned a little closer, enough that his breath brushed my lips, warm, tentative, full of hesitation. A flicker of doubt passed over his eyes. I felt it too. the weight of the choice we hadn't yet made. I reached for the counter behind me to steady myself, but my fingers missed. He caught my wrist, just lightly, and the contact was electric. My breath hitched, eyes locked to his. Neither of us moved. Neither of us blinked. We were past the point of casual. Past words. There was a pause, heavy, ripe, trembling at the edges. His thumb grazed the inside of my wrist, slow and deliberate. His other hand hovered just beside my waist, not touching, not yet. He leaned in. I did too. Close now. So close I could see the flecks of green in his eyes. Feel the tremble in his breath. Then he stopped. Right there. Inches from me. His lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came out. We stood on the edge of something that couldn't be undone. And neither of us dared move first. We were barely breathing, eyes locked, hearts racing. My wrist still rested in his hand, our lips just inches apart. It was quiet, too quiet. And then, the sharp buzz of a phone shattered the moment. He flinched first, pulling back as if burned. I blinked, heart still trying to slow down. The sound came from the counter behind him. He turned to check it. A text. From her. His voice dropped as he read it aloud. Don't forget, breakfast with my mom tomorrow. I want you to meet her properly this time. My stomach dropped. Of course. He was seeing someone. Someone I didn't know. Someone he hadn't mentioned before. I stepped back, trying to breathe evenly, to gather whatever self-control I had left. You didn't say you were in a relationship. He looked at me, regret flashing in his eyes. It's new. Not serious. At least, I didn't think it was. He paused. Not until this, he gestured between us. Until this felt serious. And now I don't know what I'm doing. There was a silence then. But not the kind from before, this one was colder. He looked torn, guilty, but also like he wanted to close the distance again. And that made it worse. Then maybe we shouldn't be standing here, I whispered. But I didn't move. Neither did he. The tension returned, not from fantasy now, but from truth. We weren't just caught in a moment anymore. We were caught in a choice. His voice was rough. What if I said I don't want to go back to pretending? My lips parted. I didn't have an answer. I think about you all the time, he said, stepping toward me. Not just like this, I mean, the way you talk, how you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention. It's not just attraction. It's you. My hands trembled at my sides. This isn't fair, I said. No, he said, closing the final step. It isn't. But I'd rather be honest and wrong than pretend and empty. He reached up, his thumb brushing the edge of my jaw. I didn't pull away. Because deep down, part of me wanted the same thing. The line we kept dancing around, it was gone now. He leaned in again, slower this time. No rush. Just the truth pressing between us like heat. My breath caught, and my hands lifted, one resting against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart pounding under my fingertips. And when our lips finally touched, it wasn't fireworks. It was fire. Steady. Burning. Inevitable. The kiss was quiet, not rushed, not frantic. It was slow, reverent, the kind of kiss that felt like a question and an answer at the same time. Everything we had tried to hold back, every glance, every breath we swallowed down, spilled out in that single, aching moment. His hands cupped my face, careful but desperate, as though he'd been waiting forever to be allowed to feel what he was feeling now. I clung to him, not because I had to, but because I didn't want to let go. This was more than heat. It was gravity. And we were both falling. Our lips parted just slightly, breaths mingling, skin flushed and hearts pounding. We looked at each other, stunned, not from shock, but from relief. We had crossed the line. Finally. But before either of us could speak, a soft knock echoed from the front door. We froze. He blinked. Who? I don't know, I whispered. He moved toward the hallway, hesitated, then stepped back to me. Stay here. I nodded, pulse thudding in my ears. From the entryway, I heard the door creak open, just enough to catch muffled voices. His voice. Then a woman's. Her voice. I stepped closer to the hallway, not quite within sight. And I heard it clear as day. I know it's late. I had a bad feeling. I had to come. It was her. The girl from the message. His girlfriend. My stomach twisted. I backed away, careful not to make a sound. A minute passed. Then another. When he came back into the kitchen, his face was pale. She left. She just wanted to see me. Make sure I was okay. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She doesn't know, he said quickly, stepping closer. I didn't. Nothing happened between us until tonight. I looked up at him. But it did happen. He didn't deny it. And I don't regret it. Silence stretched between us again, but this time it was heavier, not with desire, but with choice. We can't go back, I whispered. No, he said. We can only decide where this goes. He reached for my hand, not with fire this time, but with calm. And, just like that, we were no longer pretending. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything we hadn't said, everything we'd finally let happen, and everything we still didn't know. He sat beside me on the couch, the kitchen light behind us still glowing softly. His fingers grazed mine, slow and gentle. No more rushing. No more hiding. Just honesty. Do you regret it? He asked, voice low. I didn't answer right away. I looked at our hands, his thumb brushing over my knuckles like he was still memorizing the shape of this moment. No, I said. I think. I would have regretted never knowing. He leaned his head back against the cushion, exhaling slowly. I don't know what happens now. I don't even know how to explain what this is. I smiled faintly. Maybe we don't have to explain it yet. He looked at me then, really looked. And in that gaze, there was no tension anymore. Just warmth. Connection. Peace. We'd crossed a line, yes. But we hadn't broken anything. What we found on the other side wasn't destruction. It was something unexpectedly whole. His hand slid around my shoulder, pulling me in gently. I rested my head on his chest, listening to the steady beat beneath my ear. No words. No rush. Just stillness shared. You make me feel seen, he whispered into my hair. That hit harder than any kiss. We didn't need fireworks now. We'd had our explosion. This was the calm, and it was better. He kissed my forehead, then my temple, his lips moving slowly down to my cheek. Each kiss was a thank you. A promise. A quiet stay. I turned toward him, eyes meeting again, not with the hunger of before, but with something sweeter. Deeper. The kind of closeness that doesn't fade when the night ends. When we kissed this time, it wasn't to feed the fire. It was to keep the warmth.